4 dark slavery facts you probably didn't know. Number 4. Some enslaved children were used as bait to catch alligators. Black babies treated as disposable, their lives thrown away.
That's a heartbreaking and very real part of America's racist past. The idea of black babies being used as alligator bait refers to a racist myth and occasional practice during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Not technically during slavery itself, but in the period that followed, the Jim Crow era. It's one of the most disturbing examples of how black people, including children, were dehumanized and portrayed as less than human. Here's what's known about it, based on historical evidence and cultural context. Origins of the alligator bait myth. The phrase alligator bait first appeared in the late 1800s and early 1900s in newspapers, songs, and postcards. It was part of a series of racist jokes and caricatures that depicted black children as prey or food for alligators. These depictions appeared in advertisements, toys, and minstrel shows, showing grinning alligators chasing or eating black babies, often labeled as pickaninny bait. These images were not just jokes. They reflected and reinforced a society that viewed black people as less than human and disposable. Historical evidence of the practice. While most of the alligator bait stories came from racist folklore and propaganda, there are documented reports and eyewitness accounts suggesting that in some parts of the South, especially Florida and Louisiana, black infants or toddlers were actually used to lure alligators during hunting. Hunters were said to place a crying black child near the water's edge, wait for the alligator to approach, then kill the animal for its hide once it surfaced. Even if such acts were not widespread, the fact that they were ever spoken of, joked about, or possibly practiced shows how deeply dehumanizing racism had become, where the lives of black children were considered expendable. Symbolism and cultural impact. By the early 1900s, the alligator bait trope became common in postcards and collectibles sold across the U.S., coon songs, racist minstrel music, and even advertising art, a grotesque sign of how normalized anti-black violence and mockery were. The images typically showed naked black babies smiling or crying near swamps, alligators sneaking up to devour them, often with captions like, "Alligator bait" or "Keep smiling, little coon." Why it matters. These images and stories were part of a broader system that sought to strip black people of humanity, justify violence and oppression, and instill terror even into the cultural imagination of white children growing up around these images. They also reveal how white supremacy worked not just through laws and violence, but through humor, art, and everyday language, turning cruelty into entertainment. Reclaiming the narrative today. Historians and artists reclaim these stories too, expose the cruelty behind America's racist imagery, honor the memory of the children and families who suffered, and remind the world of how far-reaching the psychological violence of racism can be. Black artists have reinterpreted the image of the alligator bait child as a symbol of innocence, surviving horror, and truth reclaiming dignity.
Number 3. After the U.S. banned the slave trade in 1808, slavery didn't stop. They turned to breeding farms. Enslaved women were forced into pregnancies to create more labor. Here's the part they want overlooked. This wasn't cruelty, it was business. America built wealth by forcing black women to give birth into chains. Number 2. The laughing barrel. Enslaved people weren't even allowed to laugh in public. If they did, they had to hide it inside a barrel.
Yes, the laughing barrel, sometimes called a barrel of laughter, was a cruel and dehumanizing practice that existed during slavery and continued into the Jim Crow era in parts of the American South. It's one of those disturbing examples of how even something as natural as laughter was policed and controlled for black people. Here's what it was and what it meant. What the laughing barrel was, during slavery and segregation, black people were often forbidden to laugh in public, especially in the presence of white people. Laughter, something joyful and human, was seen as disrespectful, suspicious, or mocking if it wasn't under the control of white authority. To solve this, some plantations and later some public spaces reportedly kept a large barrel, tub, or container known as the laughing barrel. When black people felt the urge to laugh, they were expected to lean their head inside the barrel, the sound of their laughter so that white people wouldn't hear them. Why it existed? White slavers and later segregationists used the laughing barrel to control emotions and expression of enslaved or free black people, prevent them from showing joy or unity, which could be seen as rebellion, enforce constant humiliation and fear, even in the smallest human moments. The underlying message was, open quote, "Your joy doesn't belong to you. Even your laughter must be contained." Close quote. Symbolism and legacy. The laughing barrel became a symbol of emotional slavery, a reminder that black people weren't allowed to be fully human under that system. It represented the psychological chains that went beyond physical bondage, the attempt to suppress joy, individuality, and spirit. Even after slavery, the phrase laughing barrel was sometimes used to describe how black people were forced to hide their true feelings, smiling or performing in public while enduring racism and pain in private. Modern reflection. Today, the image of the laughing barrel is used in poetry, speeches, and art to represent the resilience of black joy, the refusal to be silenced, and the way laughter itself became an act of quiet resistance, a way to keep the spirit alive despite oppression. As one writer put it, open quote, "Even when they made us laugh into barrels, the sound still echoed through generations."
Number 1. You've heard the phrase, master bedroom. Realtors pushed it in the 1920s, but on plantations the master's room was where domination and abuse of enslaved women happened. That shadow still lingers today.
The term master bedroom originated in the early 20th century, around the 1920s, 1930s, and was popularized by real estate developers and home builders, especially after Sears, Roebuck & Co. used it in their 1926 home catalog. Here's how it developed. Original meaning. The master bedroom referred to the main or largest bedroom in a house, typically used by the master, male head of the household. It implied a room with privacy, luxury, and status, often including its own private bathroom. Historical context. The word master was commonly used in the early 1900s to describe authority or ownership, like master of the house, master key, or master copy. But because of America's history of slavery and patriarchy, the word later came to carry uncomfortable connotations of male dominance and enslavement. Modern shift. In recent decades, many real estate companies and builders have moved away from the term master bedroom and now use alternatives like primary bedroom, main bedroom, owner's suite, though this too is fading out. These changes reflect an effort to make language in housing and architecture more inclusive and sensitive to historical context. Here's how the language in housing and design has evolved in response to this history and the sensitivities around the term master bedroom. Starting in the early 2000s, and especially after 2020, many real estate professionals and builders began phasing out master bedroom and similar terms like master bathroom. They now prefer more neutral, inclusive phrases such as private bedroom / primary suite, main bedroom / main suite, owner's suite, though this one is also fading out because it can imply ownership of people, not just property. The Houston Association of Realtors was one of the first major groups to officially replace master bedroom with primary bedroom in 2020, setting a trend that spread nationally. Why the change matters? This shift isn't just political correctness, it's about awareness. The goal is to move away from words that carry patriarchal authority, the master of the house, historical violence and enslavement, the plantation master, implied hierarchy, suggesting one person or space is dominant over others. By saying primary bedroom, the language becomes descriptive, not hierarchical. It simply means the largest or main bedroom. 3. Cultural and emotional healing. For many Black Americans and others aware of the legacy of slavery, language matters because it shapes how we remember history and honor those who suffered under it. Replacing terms like master bedroom is part of a broader movement to decenter oppressive language, acknowledge trauma, create more inclusive environments, even in something as simple as home design. It's a small but meaningful way to say, we see the history, and we choose to speak differently now. Similar language evolutions. You'll notice similar shifts in other areas. Master key, main key or primary key, master file, main file, blacklist, whitelist, block list, allow list. Each change moves language toward neutrality and respect.